In Harrenhal, Daemon is still having ominous dreams. The first this week culminating in yet another appearance of a younger Rhaenyra sitting on the Iron Throne, addressing him in High Valyrian and accusing him of creating the thing he now wants to destroy her before Daemon beheads her with his sword. This is what you always wanted, is it not? Rhaenyra's head is a challenge. Another dream finds Daemon brandishing a sword and pursuing a man through the darkened halls of the castle, one who looks suspiciously like Aemon from behind, until he turns and reveals himself to be Daemon, wearing an eye patch. When the dream becomes reality, Daemon standing, sword drawn, in what looks to be an alchemist's lab of sorts, where the dark-haired woman he's seen before introduces herself to him as Alys Rivers. The very witchy Alys gives Daemon a crash course in the lesser-known history of Harrenhal, including the fact that the very bed he sleeps in was constructed from felled weirwood trees. But she's also astute enough to point out his divide from Rhaenyra, as well as the secret pleasure he might carry over her inheritance being called in question. Drinking something Alys has concocted for him feels like the exact wrong idea, and yet that's precisely what Daemon does. After that, he starts losing time, is suddenly propelled ahead to his meeting with the Blackwoods, and hallucinates his late wife Lena in place of a strong serving girl. Meanwhile, the situation isn't looking too good in the Riverland Seacrestons' army is now 3 times stronger than before, overtaking houses and convincing all men within to swear allegiance to Aegon. Apparently, word of the Black's role in Yehire's death has spread to a negative effect, meaning that more are turning away from Rhaenyra and putting Daemon in a position where he may be forced to ally himself with whoever might be left. Back at Dragonstone, Rhaenyra's small council has been meeting in her absence to discuss possible next steps, with the Green's forces marching in earnest. The Queen's advisors are growing restless, feeling rudderless in her absence, and Rhaenys does her best to temper their rising anxieties. But it's clear no one has a better voice of authority than Corlys when the sea snake strides into the room. More telling is that everyone else accepts his tongue lashing, ceding to Corlys in the interim at least, until Rhaenyra finally makes it back, still wearing her septa disguise. Her admission that she met with Alicent in secret is received incredulously by Jace, but Rhaenyra insists that she has learned all she needs to and understands there is only one way forward from here on out. Either I win my claim or I die. Once it is clear that Criston's army is heading to Rook's Rest, the question becomes which dragon to send. Rhaenyra and Syrax volunteer, but her survival is paramount at this stage to give her followers someone to fight for. Jace suggests he and Vermax go, but he's still young and has less fighting experience. The only option, Rhaenys insists, is to send her, and Meleys' teeth-red queen is the largest dragon in the Black's arsenal and no stranger to battle. As both sides make their preparations, Rhaenyra divulges the truth of the Song of Ice and Fire prophecy to Jace, as well as Viserys' enduring intent to make her his heir. She can't rely on dragons for a crown. Her purpose must be something much larger than that. Meleys and Rhaenys descend on Rook's Rest and, for a moment, seem to have the upper hand against the Green's army. But a much more sizable opponent waits inside the forest, Vhagar. Aemond isn't immediately riding in to fight, however, especially not once he sees Aegon, on his dragon Sunfire, hastily joining the fray. Aegon's presence is the last thing either Criston or Aemond expected or wanted, but the hand of the king uses it to motivate his men to advance. Meanwhile, above, Meleys and Sunfire clash for the first time, and Rhaenys clearly has the advantage in the size of her dragon, with Meleys clawing brutal tears into Sunfire's chest that send blood pouring onto the battlefield, as Vhagar heaves herself out of the tree line and into the sky. However, she's a sight big enough to make every man down below fall silent, and distracting enough to Rhaenys that Sunfire gets in a bite of Meleys. But with the two dragons tangled up together, it means that Aegon gets caught in the crossfire literally as Aemond issues a definitive Dracarys. Disbelief turns to horror on Aegon's face seconds before he and Sunfire are immolated by a breath from Vhagar, with both dragon and rider plunging helplessly to the ground. As Criston rides toward the billowing smoke, Rhaenys briefly seizes advantage of the chaos to fly away from the battle, But the realization that this might be their only chance to take out the Green's greatest asset in Vhagar leads the Queen, who never was to turn back, and bid Meleys to attack yet again, definitively strapping herself into the saddle. If Rhaenys is going down, she'll aim to take out Vhagar and Aemond with her. It's a fiery, bloody exchange with